Hello and welcome to the Long Island Business Podcast. I am your host for today, Adam Walsh from Oasis Senior Advisors, and I'm joined by Paul Vecchione from Long Island Prep. Paul, thank you very much for coming in today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So a big reason why we're doing this project is to kind of help our networking and business partners on Long Island get to know one another and hopefully feel more comfortable and confident doing business with each other. You and I are meeting for the first time today. Would you mind giving me just a little bit of background on Long Island Prep?
Sure. So I've been a teacher here on Long Island for about 20 years. In fact, this month it'll be 20 years. Which
Congrats.
That's a lifetime in that profession, but
Sure
it's the best. I wouldn't want to do anything else except anything that I could do more than what I'm doing in the classroom, which helping kids and parents and teachers really kind of tackle what's happening around Long Island and around New York and obviously around the country, which obviously we're in the midst of a pretty bad drug overdose crisis and mental health crisis. So kind of took the experience that I have as a teacher working with teenagers, did a lot of research, did a lot of field work, a lot of development, and kind of brought some programs together to approach these issues from a multifaceted, kind of angles, which I've been able to put together. So
that's amazing. I think that especially we say after COVID a lot, right, but obviously this is not a problem that just manifested during COVID. This is something that's been going on. But I know that the effects of the shutdown isolation really ramped things up. What was sort of what inspired you to take this approach? Yeah,
so I actually started Long Island Prep before the pandemic, and like I said, there was a lot of field work and a lot of research to be done. So right when we were about to get started, boom, the whole country shut down, and obviously that had its negative effect on everybody, especially teenagers. Right. So once we kind of came onto the other side of COVID, it became really evident really quickly how deleterious the pandemic shutdown was. But again, it hit kids the most. I don't think we're back on our feet 100% as of yet, but the drug overdose crisis, obviously, and the mental health crisis really kind of took off because of the pandemic. So we're still kind of feeling the effects of that.
Yeah. What does sort of a day in the life for a program look like at Long Island Prep?
So what we're trying to do is work directly with schools and parents and teachers and communities to raise awareness about these issues. We've developed the kindergarten through 12th grade curriculum to work with kids in schools. We've developed a nice intervention and student management system. So if there's a red flag for a student in crisis, we have a nice program in place where we can kind of bring a team together and intervene to get that child on the right track. And the third arm is really kind of bringing the teachers and the parents into the mix. As a teacher, I noticed that there's a lot of disconnect between what happens in school and what happens at home. So we're trying to get them talking and learning these things. So we do a lot of professional development, community awareness seminars, things like that. So like I said, it's a really full encompassing, program that I think can help a lot of people. So
yeah, I think so too. I mean, you're talking about two groups, whether it's the parents or the teachers, where just the day-to-day life can be so taxing and so overwhelming that even if there's that interest in taking that step further, it's well, what do I do? Right.
Absolutely. And, I found that a lot of the, parents are just as much in the dark about these things as their kids are. Right. So, kind of trying to help fill that void and get them informed on things so they know if they hear something, they know what it means. Right. And again, it just adds a layer of intervention and prevention for the parents to be aware of what the kids are actually experiencing. A lot of it's lingo, a lot of it's things that they would have never known. Right. But now if they're informed and they're educated on it, they have the opportunity to kind of, step in.
Yeah. I imagine cell phones, social media plays a huge factor in this.
Huge factor. And, we are guilty of it as adults.
Sure.
But we're adults and we're on the other side of school of, education and things like that. So when our 16 and 17-year-olds are engaging in the social media and the smartphones, it exacerbates, the issue a lot. When we were kids, bullying took place on the playground, in the bus, in the sandbox, but then we went home.
Right.
And we had the comfort of our homes and, it was like a break from it. Not anymore. Social media brings that 24/7 aspect, and anything that's said or posted on social media is forever.
Yeah.
So they're reliving it daily, hourly even. So
it's hard. Yeah. So your inspiration for this goes back before the pandemic. You kind of got it started. The pandemic hits. I'm sure there was some creative problem solving that went into that. What are you finding as far as your efforts for outreach and getting into more spaces? How's that been going?
So to be perfectly honest, it was slow at first. I think these issues, people are still kind of, putting their head in the sand about it. It's not topics that people like to talk about a lot, but we're changing that. And that's basically what, the initial, mission was for Long Island Prep. So the more and more people we speak to, the more we have engagement in the community with, getting people to know what's actually happening. We're starting to see a nice trend upward in interest and things like that, which is all we ever wanted. We want people to be aware of these things so they can basically help their children and help each other. So
yeah, no, I mean, I think early intervention, I'm sure, is a huge key to success. So just having the information out there. Besides schools, is this something that's functioning in other settings as well?
It is. We've actually we've garnered a lot of interest in community, organizations. We're working with Nassau County PAL to bring our message to them. We've got a lot of, people working directly within communities. We talked to the Girl Scouts recently. So it's just a matter of, who can we speak to and how can we get that message out,
That's great. So. Anything surprised you as you've kind of launched? I mean, this is a business. Right?
It is.
I mean, it's tough, but you have to grow. You have to find the funding and all that. Any surprises along the way?
I think I thought it was going to be easy.
Sure.
I think I thought because people, it impacts everybody. Somebody can think of somebody who was impacted by drugs or alcohol or mental health. So, I kind of thought initially there would be this great interest. It wasn't like that at all. It took a long time to kind of know the field, people with what we're dealing with, who we're dealing with, and getting people to listen. Yeah. Once they listen, all of a sudden, they're interested.
Right. So. Do you have a sense of where that resistance comes from in them?
I think the stigma of mental health, to start there. I think that people, forever there was a shame in, an alcoholic or a drug addict or somebody who was suffering from mental health. And we're trying to break that. I think breaking that, those barriers are what bring people together to realize, hey, we got to work together to get these issues solved. Yeah. And listen, there's never going to be a perfect answer. It's never going to go away completely, but we can temper it. We can make it better for people here on Long Island. So that's what we're trying to do. That's
great. Anything giving you sort of, I can't imagine. I mean, are you running? I would think you must have run into a couple of situations here where you're thinking like, this is it. It's not. How are you fighting that fight?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very lucky because it's not my full-time job. I'm lucky I can pay the bills. I can put food on the table for my kids, and my wife with my teaching job. So I think one of the obstacles was just figuring out, like you said, funding, interest, and there were times where I'm like, I don't know if I can keep this up, but again, things kind of started, groundswell is starting to build a little bit, which is helping out. So that's very encouraging. So
that's great. When you're faced with that, let's say it's maybe it's a school administrator, what are some of the key things that you want them to understand as far as the value of considering a program like this in their schools?
Yeah, so I think that our message is it takes a village, because it really does. It takes parents, it takes teachers, it takes kids. And if I'm talking to a school administrator, they want their school to run smoothly. They want they want to help their students. So coming from my teaching experience, being in the classroom for 20 years, I'm able to sit with them and basically go through why this program would help in their school, why it would help their kids, why it would help their parents. You're going to see better outcomes. You're going to see stronger, more mentally sound students. And what administrator wouldn't want that, So.
I don't know, administrators. But hopefully, when it comes to a business, right, there's only so much you can do to get your name out there. So what are some things that have been kind of working for you, and what are some areas that you're exploring? Yeah,
so I think social media, it definitely has its downfalls. We've already, kind of hit on that. But, within the palm of your hand, you can reach a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think when you hit the message that, hey, everyone has kids, or everyone has a parent or an uncle or a friend who is touched by these issues. Mental health and drug abuse have been around for thousands of years, a long time. So when you kind of personalize it and you bring people into that space with you, people listen. And social media helps a lot. Having a good network of other businesses and people help a lot. So it's just a matter of getting the message out there as effectively as we possibly can. So that's what we're trying to do.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And the social media sword is going to cut both ways no matter what. Right. But it's here. Yeah. It's going to happen, and it is an unbelievable way. One of my thoughts to that is that you get to consume that information privately. And this is a private issue, or at least it historically has been a very private issue. So I could see that having maybe like a side door entrance for you to get that message in through social media where people can consume it privately, but they're going to see something of their story in what you're sharing.
No doubt about it. Like I said, people have that, somewhere in their past or in their circle, somebody who's suffering from one of these things.
Yeah.
So I think hitting that note is super important. Like you said, having the opportunity to view it privately, but then giving it a second thought afterwards helps us and it helps them.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being a valuable tool. One of the things that I think people get frustrated with is lack of systems. And I work with an aging population, and I've seen it myself where people, I think, come to the table with this assumption that there's some system that's going to step in and follow. But it's not really the case here. And my experience with the mental health or even the substance abuse world is it's not really the case there. So what are you finding when, okay, you've got someone to listen and you've got that message, how are we tying those resources and making those connections?
Well, it's funny you say that there isn't a system. That's exactly why we've developed one.
Yeah.
I felt that bringing the main stakeholders, into the conversation, the kids, the parents, the teachers, all of a sudden you have a community, you have a team of people who are interested in what you're doing and trying to help the people and kids, especially within their circle. So I think, bringing those resources together and showing them, the benefit of using them and what they can do, it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
And people, if they're resistant to it, if they start seeing it working, all of a sudden it's the greatest thing in the world, or it's something that I can use to help my students or my child. I mean, what parent doesn't want their child to be healthy and stay off drugs and have the tools they need to resist drugs and have strong mental health? So we've used all of that. It took a long time to get to that point. There was a lot of bumps in the road, but listen, I mean, failure is the best teacher.
Yeah.
So that's basically the path we've taken.
Well, that's interesting because my next thought was sort of, what does the role of failure play from a philosophy, your philosophy of how you approach these things? Where does what's the value of failure there?
So I think when we started, it was back in 2017, the program that was then compared to what is today, I mean, it's apples and oranges, So I think learning, the ins and outs of what we have to offer, what works, what doesn't work, and what gets people to listen.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. People weren't listening at first. And I mean, we've done so many things to try to get people to listen. So I think just learning, the best ways to go about it from, where we failed in the past has been the best teacher. And, listen, it's certainly not a perfect system, but we're going to keep at it because I feel like these issues are not going away anytime soon.
No, so. I think sadly you're absolutely correct. But also it's been a part of society forever. Right. This isn't a today problem.
Nope.
But we do have more options and resources today than we ever did. It's just so hard to connect those. So if you guys can fill in that blank and make that connection, I think that's
and that's right. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. I've seen the cracks. I've seen the gaps working with with kids in a school for so many years, losing a couple of students along the way, hearing their stories with parents and family and friends. So it hits home. And our mission is really to, like I said, bring people together so that they realize, hey, we can make this less of an impact as we move forward, trying to get these programs into schools and stuff. So
what's a recent success you've had?
So it's funny. Tonight I am headed to dinner with Dwight Gooden.
The Dwight Gooden?
The Dwight Gooden. Just because making those connections, reaching out and trying to get somebody with some influence to listen to what I have to say or what we have to say. And, Doc Gooden had his issues, with addiction and mental health, and he was just too happy to hear what we had to say. And it's just, getting somebody whose ear matters maybe can help us move up the chain a bit. So I would definitely say that's a success.
Yeah.
We've kind of been signing a couple of schools here and there that are, start. So I think it's just, just like I said, it's a nice groundswell that's starting to build here.
And when it comes to signing schools up for the program, do you know, is there a frequency of where that referral, that connection is being made?
It's a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of who do you know. That's one of the lessons, I should say, that I've learned with business. It's who you know.
Yeah.
And then once you get someone with some influence to listen to what you have to say, all of a sudden they're connecting you with this person and that person. So we kind of take all that experience and roll it into something that seems to be working right now.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the key underpinning value of what we're trying to do here, which is we're in these groups, we meet people, we form connections and relationships, but then they stay in that room Tuesday mornings. It's and And we were looking for a way to kind of bring that out to the light and give other people a chance to say, oh, I think I'd like to talk to Paul. I know someone over at this school district who might want to talk to you.
I love that because I'm really learning the value of networking.
Yeah.
And it's tedious work. It's, and one thing I was actually talking to a friend today, the money doesn't flow to you. You got to go out and get it. Yeah. It's a lot of work, but it's rewarding when it does come back, and you say, you know what, I did all this and it was worth it because it's helping people.
And the nature of the success is different when you've had a chance to form a relationship with someone and then work together towards a shared outcome that everybody benefits from.
No doubt about it. And being the sole owner right now, but listening to what other people have to say, their advice or some suggestions. At first, I was a little hesitant to it. Like, what do you know? This is but let me tell you, I mean, just having an open mind and an open ear to what people have to say and being able to talk to people in these networking groups, there's real, true value there. Yeah. So.
Did you draw an inspiration from anywhere in particular when you got this started, or is this just sort of what made sense to you?
Well, all right. So let's go back to around 2016. I was working with a buddy of mine who was running for office. And when you're running for office, especially on Long Island, you got to go out to a lot of community events.
Sure do.
One of the events that we attended on a Sunday afternoon was a memorial run for a gentleman who lost his life to opioid overdose. And talking to his mother and feeling her pain and seeing what she had gone through, and then kind of knowing the things that I experienced as a teacher, seeing what students struggle or hearing about their family members or even some of my own students who have passed away. That was enough for me to say, I probably can't solve this on my own, but I can start. Start doing something, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And then here we are 7 years later, and I hope we're on the cusp here. So.
Well, to your effect of, or to the effect of, you never know who's watching, who's listening. Right. Is there a goal? Is there someone? Is there an organization or a school district you've been knocking on the door, haven't made any headway? Maybe we can put the power of the people into it?
Not in particular, but, any and listen, anybody who can, relate to these issues, whether it's a teacher with their students, an administrator with their students and their teachers, a parent, somebody who is concerned with what's happening. We want their ear. We want to just have a conversation with them to let them know, hey, there's solutions out there. There's a way to put a crack in this terrible scourge. I mean, it's been going on since 1995 when OxyContin first hit the market there. We're talking about 30 years now, where people have been dying at just unprecedented clips. So we want to put a nice dent in that, and I think Long Island Prep is definitely a start.
No, and I think it's clear just in listening to you speak. This isn't coming from a place of judgment. This isn't coming from a place of, failing. It's just recognizing the modern world is really hard.
It's really hard.
And kids. I know.
I mean, we have the tools, I think, because we've got through it.
To an extent.
Right, to an extent. No, absolutely.
To an extent.
Right. But
some days better than others, it feels. But
absolutely. But a 14, 15-year-old who's dealing with, being a teenager, just a normal teenager is hard. With the social media now and all these pressures around them to do things, the academics, the athletics, drugs are, like we said, have always been around. But it's the mental health aspect that is really a problem now. So when we build them up mentally, we can help them resist drugs that way. So.
I think it's amazing. I'm very grateful to have met you. I'm glad that you're doing this work.
Thank you.
I hope that if anyone listening is identifying with this, and I suspect you are, there's a step you can take. It could be as simple as a warm handoff, but I think we'd like to see this expand and grow and see what else you can do to help our families.
That'd be great.
I just appreciate you.
Thank you.
On a much, much lighter note.
Thank you.
We like to end it with a couple of quick questions. Whatever comes to mind, don't overthink it too much, but we'll start with favorite meal. What are we doing? You got one meal left. What's it going to be?
Veal Parmesan.
Easy. Easy. Moving on.
That's the Italian, I guess, but that's all right.
How about, well, you're in good company on this island, I can tell you for sure.
Right.
What about a piece of art? It could be a book, a movie, a film, just something that means something to you.
If I'm going to sit down and engage in some kind of Shawshank Redemption. I mean that. I mean, you can turn that movie on even if it's in the middle, beginning, or end. You're watching.
Right, it's not like we're not channel surfing as much these days as we used to. But
right.
If it's on, it's
on. You're watching it. Yeah, no doubt about it. So.
Destination? Where are we going? Plane ticket to anywhere.
I'm going back to Jean Louis in St. Lucia.
St. Lucia.
Yep, it was between
sand, water.
Between two dormant volcanoes that had a cove of the Caribbean, the best snorkeling I've ever been in my life. We were there in 2011, so that'd be the first place I head back to.
All right, very good. And who's a hero?
Oh, I have plenty of those. One of them would be my mom and my dad. They raised us to be, upstanding.
Clearly.
Great citizens. Thank you for that. Thank you. The other would be my wife. My wife is a teacher like me, very demanding middle school math teacher job, and we have three boys who are rambunctious and just about to enter their teenage years. 1 2-year-old.
Okay.
And she handles the house and her job with such elegance and grace. That's something I can never do, honestly. So she handles it great. So
I'm glad you have her.
I appreciate that. But
I'm glad you have her.
My mom and dad, and definitely my wife. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. The business is Long Island Prep. Yep. If you or anyone you know is connected to organizations, school districts, anyone that can help get this message out into the community, this is the time to engage. Leave a comment, reach out to Paul directly. We'll provide you with the contact information. And I feel very comfortable in suggesting this is something that I think we all want to see grow and expand. So thank you so much for spending your time with us. My name is Adam Walsh with Oasis Senior Advisors. Our guest today has been Paul Vecchione of Long Island Prep. You've been watching the Long Island Business Podcast, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care.